The Pike County Sheriff's Office is now urging parents, guardians, and educators to be proactive and help protect children from a recent wave of online sextortion. They say they are seeing a rise in online sextortion threats targeting children and teens. Sextortion happens when a predator coerces someone into sharing explicit photos or videos and then threatens to expose them unless the child provides more content, money, or continued contact.
If that happens, do not delete the account, do not delete the messages, do not respond, and certainly do not send more content or money. There is the point in time where you contact law enforcement, and then that's where someone like me comes in, and then I do my investigation.
The Pike County Sheriff's Office says you should talk with your child about the risks online and to monitor what apps and games your child is playing.